Hi, this is Brendan Murphy here, and welcome to the Please Do Something podcast. I'm a singer and a songwriter who will be talking to inspiring creative people about how and why they do what they do and some of the lessons they've learned along the way. Thanks for listening. From demo tapes to final master, join Greg Canty and me as we explore the making of the four of us' latest album, Crescent Nights. Track by track, we'll share the creative journey and studio stories that brought this album to life. Let's begin.
Brendan Murphy.
Greg Canty. Here we are again.
Yeah, round 3, Crescent Nights.
3, yeah, exactly.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, let's go. I've got the gloves on.
What sort of a day did you have?
Today?
Yeah.
A pretty frustrating day in one way and a pretty warm and fuzzy day on the other, in that we were back in Amberville Mark II with our co-writer, and as we start, believe it or not, the journey of our next record. But if the last record was anything to go by, that could be quite a long journey. But hey, you know, our job is to make great records, so it'll be done when it'll be done. But we were under no illusion. We're gonna have to kiss a lot of babies, a lot of frogs. So we're gonna have to kiss a lot of frogs in songwriting terms before we end up with those 11 or 12 songs and make the next record. So you just got to put the work in once a week, every week. That's the way it's going to be for foreseeable future.
You nearly turned into a politician there, kissing babies.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I know.
Is there a stop and a start? It surprised me, the fact that you were in the studio today working on stuff. Is there a conscious decision at some point, let's start again? Or is it just a case of some good ideas and we need to get them recorded before they disappear into the ether? How does it work?
It's it's a conscious decision, and it can come from, probably in our case, one of 3 sources. Either Declan will say, we need to start, or me, or Enda, actually. It takes somebody's energy. And I think because we're out there working the current record, like our schedule's pretty crazy at the minute, I think that we weren't really thinking in terms of, but at the back of my mind, I had all these things in the calendar where it was like, right on this day, and it wasn't happening, to be honest with you. And Enda had started getting in touch saying that he'd set up a room. And then the second he did that, both myself and Declan went, we need to, because I recognize that energy that Enda had, and it's the energy to go with it. It's the most important job that we have, myself and Declan have, is the job of getting the song right. And no matter what, only a week ago I was in Highland Radio in Letterkenny, and we were doing a live session, and there was a young act on, and it's funny when you meet, you realise you're getting on a bit, when they're like sort of, we're honoured, this sort of crack, I don't know, maybe they expected us to be dead or something like that. It was like, we're honoured this, and it's worrying when musicians start asking you for advice. You realise, oh, we've hit that stage, have we? We're like sort of the Gandalf. We're the Gandalf of the Irish music scene. One of the girls said, what do you think has changed the most since you guys started, back in the Stone Age? Well, what do you think has changed the most? And I could see where she was headed with this, which was that the industry so different now than it was whenever we started. But really, she's looking for advice. So I said, the thing to focus on is the stuff that hasn't changed, because that's really what it's all about. How good is your song? How good is your show? How good are you at getting the word out? That was the job when I started, and it's still the job today. And everything else is window dressing. And the most important part of those 3 elements is how good is the song. how good is the song is a really nebulous question, because somebody who's into instrumental acid jazz, is going to have a very different idea of, their idea of what a great piece of music is than I would have, or someone who's into death metal. So it's like, I suppose I should say, how good is the song in your estimation compared to your own heroes? You sort of put it up against that. You know what I mean? Put on the song that you've written and recorded. Now stick on your favorite record by your favorite artist. Play your song after it. And if it doesn't depress the absolute hell out of you, then you either have too much to drink or you actually might be onto something.
I was chatting to a guy, a lovely, lovely guy, Liam Milan is his name. He's a great guitarist, quite a good singer. And yeah, he was on my own podcast, the Win Happy podcast. He's the general manager of Mercedes-Benz in Cork. But he was telling me his dream was to be in a band. So they had the band like a long time ago. He was the lead guitarist, singer. They were doing their songwriting. They put every shilling they had into an album that came out. They did a gig in Golden Discs in Grafton Street, I think, a long, long time ago. Didn't have a brass farthing. He told me they went to a restaurant after. He said he couldn't afford the food.
Yeah.
He was too proud to get someone to buy him dinner. He said he was so hungry, he went into the loo with some mayonnaise and ketchup sachets just to take the hunger off. And he actually said that was the moment when he stopped doing music. He thought, I need to have a life now. And I suppose when that girl in Highland Radio, when she's asking her for advice, she's probably back at that stage that he was then, hoping to get the breaks and the luck of the draw, or the right time with the right song to the right audience. Maybe that audience wasn't ready, I have no idea. But he got it right. The right songs at the right time.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, of course, you do everything that I said there. How good the song, how good the show, how good, But then you need, lucky break. You need at least one.
Yeah.
And, if you can get more than one, great. And if you do that, then you have a chance of getting paid to do something you would pay to do, which is all I ever wanted. As my dad said, I love singing, but I never got paid for it. And then the just question is, well, how much does it take for you to feel, because I just wanted to write songs. It was to write them, sing them, and have an audience. So, but it's not easy. It doesn't get any easier either. So it's not easy.
So while we're talking about writing songs, and summer is starting to creep upon us, it seems to be like a real thing again. The weather's getting better. So I want to chat to you about one of the children that you gave away, one of the lost souls.
Yeah, it's funny. Declan was saying, God, Greg's really into the songs that didn't make it on the record, isn't he? Because he does know that these songs aren't available, doesn't he? He does know that no one can actually listen to these songs. And I said, yeah, no, I think he does know that. And he said, I just wondered. And I said, well, it means that the next time we have a pre-order, more people, because this worked so well for us. It was a genius idea, if I say so myself. Because we write albums all the time, and most of the songs don't make it. And this time we were able to give the people that really are our biggest fans a chance to own those songs, knowing that they really were secret songs, that, songs weren't ever going to be on Spotify, not in their current setup anyway. But yeah, Declan finds it amusing that we're discussing these songs,
So, snow falling down just as we're coming into the summer. The snow was a foot deep on Market Street.
Yes.
The song you gave away, that was one of the ones you said, okay,
That's
forget
right.
about it. It's going nowhere.
Yeah, that was because why did that song not make the record? I think that song we just thought maybe wasn't pacey enough. The record Crescent Nights had sort of a rhythmic feel and a sort of sense of playfulness pretty much from top to tail. And this song really was very clearly sort of reminiscent and, and it just felt a bit down in the mouth for us. To make this particular record, it would have suited something maybe Sugar End. It might have suited something like that. It was the same idea in that you were looking back to a sort of like your childhood, but actually it was looking back probably too far for us. It was looking back to early childhood.
It was a decade out.
It was a decade out. You can't, when you're writing songs, you just got to run with them, and because it was about a memory. And, you can't go scrub that and let's move it and let's change that memory because then it wouldn't feel authentic. It'd be harder to write. So you just write it and then you go, oh, maybe it'll end up feeling like it could fit in, but it didn't.
It was a lovely song, a lovely nostalgic song. And I think it's absolutely spot on yes, it wasn't part of the album, but at the same time, for Four of Us fans, it was a nice thing to give them, to reward them with. And I know on your email subscriber list, every week you're giving away little snippets like that to people, you know. So for anyone who's listening and they're not subscribed to the Four of Us email, you're always giving away little gems like that, which are absolutely brilliant. So cool, well done with that.
Mother and son caught in a photograph. I'm in her arms. She's trying to make me laugh. I'm just a child. She looks so carefree, watching the town light up the Christmas tree. Snow falling down, it's a foot deep on Market Street. Snow falling down, and every year she would bring me here. Snow falling down.
Okay, let's talk about the songs that did make it.
Okay.
Yeah. When I think about COVID and that whole time, I think about one song that absolutely marks COVID and that huge period of time for me. And it's The Waiting Game. For me, that was the song. That's in my head.
It's a real honour. And to be honest with you, we debated not putting that song on the record for the same sort of reason we thought maybe the Snow Falling Down should make the record, in that it was slightly out of kilter with where the theme of the record was. But then there was two of them. We have an online show every Thursday, and Crescent Nights was sort of born, was shepherded through the whole process with that audience. As we were writing songs on the Thursday night, we would go and we would, warts and all, we would say, look, we've got a verse here, we don't have a chorus. But the first time we really did that on that show was with that song Waiting Game. And that was during COVID. And we said on the show, we're thinking of maybe not putting Waiting Game on the Crescent Nights album. And there was outrage because people said, no, this song was important to them. It was part of a broader selection of songs that did end up on that record. And let's be honest, we started the record during COVID. We were at it for a few years. So, and for me, it's a COVID song that has dated well. It was written and recorded by our standards really fast, but it has. I remember thinking, I don't want to put any. I'm not going to use the word mask. I'm not going to use the word COVID. I'm going to try and write it in a way that it could if you take it out of COVID and somebody listens to the record, that they don't need to see it through the lens of COVID to enjoy the song, or you know what I mean?
We're just playing the waiting game. Sometimes it gets me down, then you'll say, it's good to have you home again. Now you're not packing for a plane. We've got time to sit and talk about what we want. Remember how you'd climb the walls, 'cause I was always on a call. Times have changed, a switch was flicked, our lives rearranged. We're just playing the waiting game. We're just playing the waiting game. Seasons turning, snow and rain. Summer coming around again.
I heard the demo.
Okay.
And I thought the demo was really a well-formed song, even at that stage. And it was interesting listening to you playing with it and experimenting with it a little bit. But the song was there, you know, even at demo stage, it really sounded like it was very much together.
Yeah.
And I presume that's why you were saying the song came together really, really quickly.
Yeah, it was one of those, I remember, you know, and this doesn't happen that often, but it was one of those ones where we said we went through this period where we were saying, right, we're going to write a song in a week. We're going to write a song in a week. We're going to see if we can write a song in a week in front of you. So we'll come up with an idea, and then the following week I'm going to have a lyric. So Declan had come up with this backing track idea that was basically the waiting game. You know, it was, a lot of the stuff was in it. And I then said, oh, you know, a week later, I'm going to have a lyric. And I remember Declan panicking after about a day or two and going, you said you're going to have a lyric. Well, let's record it then. And I didn't have the lyric. And I said, yeah. And then I said, I've got something. Because I had the title Waiting Game when I'd been singing rubbish. So I was writing backwards. I wrote it over lunch, the whole lyric. I was sitting having lunch knowing that I was going to be down with him writing in another 2 hours. And we might have changed a few things, but really it came together super fast. And, you know.
And one of the wonderful things about that song, it doesn't talk about this horrific time when we were all petrified. It actually captures the little bit of magic that we discovered at that time. It's a bright, up-tempo, fun song with that bit of family nostalgia built into it. I was with pals at the weekend, and for some reason, the whole subject of COVID came up in conversation. We hadn't gone there in a long time with anyone. I thought it was unusual. And they were saying what a treasured time it was, because their two lads were back with them, living in the house, and they were saying that they had great fun playing games and even working during the day in the house together and all that kind of thing. And that song captures the nice part. It was once in a lifetime, yes, the terrible side, but once in a lifetime, a kind of precious time as well.
Yeah, and it was tricky. At that time, we were in the middle of it. Yeah. And we still weren't, when I was writing the lyrics for it, we were still in the middle of it. And no one needed another reminder of all the horrendous implications of COVID. Nobody needed any more of that. But nobody was really at that point talking about the fact that there was also a flip side for some of us who just got to press pause on their what's supposed to be important. And, you know, for me in particular, it happened at a point when my kids were infants. And suddenly I had time and it came after a period when I had been away a lot touring, and it fundamentally changed my perspective when I came out the other side of COVID. There's lines in that song that I stuck to, which was, I forget the lines, but lines where I was sort of talking about, let's not forget when this is over what this feels like. And let's try and put some of the lessons of that into life moving forward, which I have personally have done. So now I'm not prepared to miss my kids growing up.
We all learned an awful lot that time. I had you on my podcast, and that question that I ask everyone, what's happiness to you? And I'm not sure if you remember the answer, do you?
I do. It was, I think I said right now, right now, because I'm in the bosom of my own family, and it's like, it was something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Was there a birthday as well around that time when you were saying you can have a movie night or something like that? And I thought,
no, my birthday, because I am a big kid, so on my birthday, what I like to do is nothing. I celebrate my birthday the same year a 10-year-old would, which is basically, fill myself full of absolutely the wrong foods and as much sweets and chocolate as I can get, and watch at least 3 movies a day, picked by me, and force all my family to watch the same movies with me. They're my choice. It's my choice, and they have to do it. So it's like that's my idea of heaven.
What was the gap between gigs at that time? You obviously stopped gigging.
There was no gigs. It was like no shows for, I don't remember how long the gap was, but it seemed like an eternity. But I was trying to reimagine. During COVID, it gave me the incentive to reimagine a sort of a 4-of-us music business that didn't rely on shows as being the only driver of revenue, and sort of and really to figure out a way to embrace technology and how that could be used to give me more, and Declan, more freedom and more choices, and actually more reach in relation to our audience. So our business, if you want to call that, or whatever you want to call it, our practice of making music and distributing it, and that went through a fundamental seismic change during that period. In that we started an online show, we started an email list. Ironically, we got closer to our audience by not going out. We used the tools of technology to connect with our audience in a way we never had before, and in a way that we still do today. And it really is. It's been so enriching for us. And, I remember I was at the Peter Gabriel gig, which was on after COVID. And 3 different people came up to me at interval and when we were walking out, and just who I didn't know, and thanked me for helping them get through COVID by doing these weekly shows,
Yeah, thank you for the music.
yeah, it's just amazing, So Waiting Game has just the right tone for me. It has, we've gone through a lot of the albums on this podcast, and I go, I'd do this differently, I would do that differently, I would do the other differently. I still don't feel that about a lot of this record. A lot of this record, I don't think we could have improved on. It's the best we could do at the time. And certainly that song, I think, has dated a bit as well as you could possibly hope a COVID song would. You know what I mean? As soon as you start going, even at the time I was thinking we'd be lucky now if this song manages to stay the distance in terms of relevance. But I think it does, so I'm really happy with that song.
We're just playing the waiting game. Sometimes it gets me down, then you'll say it's good to have you home again. Now you're not packing for a plane. We've got time to sit and talk about what we want. Remember how you'd climb the walls, 'cause I was always on a call. Times have changed, switch was flicked, our life was rearranged. We're just playing the waiting game. We're just playing the waiting game. Seasons turning, snow and rain. Summer coming around again.
So back to the theme of the album. We've graduated now from Bone Shaker bicycles to a Citroen GS.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Night Out of Town is like, that is when I really felt like world watch out, you know, like freedom. You know, you weren't on two wheels, you were on four wheels. You may not have been in control because you weren't the one driving, as I mentioned in the song. And he, you know, he had borrowed his dad's car, but he had his driving test. At that point, there was a gang, about 4 or 5 of us, that were just so excited to be getting out of Dodge, getting out of town. And not only that, but you could cross the border. This car that was pulling up on a Friday or a Saturday night was picking you up to take you on a magical mystery tour across the border into the south, over to Dundalk. And, you know, there was all these little rituals on the way. You would have to stop at, you know, on the border to change your sterling into punts, you know, and which could be good or bad news depending on the rate. And you would then go and spend those punts in various nightclubs in Dundalk, and Dundalk had a load of them, you know. And Dundalk girls were exotic because they had strange accents compared to, you know, and Newry boys were exotic because they had strange accents. So it was a win-win combination back then, you know.
Yeah, and I suppose that you could get up to a lot if you weren't from Dundalk. You shoot in and shoot out again.
Yes, and also you couldn't get up to a lot because you were shooting in and shooting out.
You needed a lift home.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like you know, you were like Cinderella at the end when the national anthem came on, and no, maybe it didn't come on in Dundalk. I think it did though. When it came on in the north, it was a big deal. But it was at the end of the nightclub when the nightclub would end for the end of the night. That was it, like, you know. It was everybody trooped back into the car, and they were just they were magical days, nights for me. They're magical nights, and none of us drank. None of us drank. None of us wanted to make a fool of ourselves in front of the other person. I mean, it was so innocent. These 5 guys, all with zero experience on a number of fronts, all heading off to a nightclub where we'd be sitting ordering Fantas and trying to look grown up and cool. And the whole song is really about that idea of trying to look like you're hip and cool, even though you don't know your ass from your elbow. You know, it just, and you're trying on all these identities. And we looked, you know, we all wore the same secondhand jackets, and we all liked the same music. We had the same gel in our hair. we were all copying each other, really, searching for an identity that we hadn't quite figured out yet.
The demo you sent me had the name Lee Dorsey as part of it. Who was Lee Dorsey? What was Lee Dorsey about?
Well, that wasn't. Lee Dorsey was, what is Lee Dorsey's big song? Lee Dorsey was named not by me. It was either End or Declan, because I obviously don't know too much about Lee Dorsey, but he's one of those like guys that wrote some of those like early R&B. He's a big name. I should know him. I'm feeling embarrassed that I don't know him, but
We'll hit Mr. Google.
yeah, exactly. And but that song started with a running bass line that goes bum 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 bum. There's a sort of a like a Motown type bass line on that song that then we just ran with, and the drums are basically on follow the bass line. So it has that to start off with. So it's sort of nearly pastiche, but of course what we put on top of it was something completely different, but it had a sort of a driving feel to it. And I always like titles that subvert an expression. So Night on the Town is the expression. Night Out of Town is the taking the expression and shifting it, because Night Out of Town for a bunch of Northerners headed south was a night out of the country, essentially.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah. And there were lots of verses actually that I wrote that the boys vetoed because they thought it was ground that I'd covered. And I was mentioning things like no boarded up, windows, none of that. And they went, look, let's keep us in the mind of the 18-year-old that's in the car. And let's not move it into some sort of a social commentary, and they were right.
Yeah. You were talking about looking down at your feet, or the women standing on your feet.
Yeah, I mean, that's because that was all we were concerned about. We were just concerned about, you don't know, we'd gone to a single-sex school, so you really are trying to figure out how this works. The disco, the slow set, the whole thing it was so exciting. I mean, it really was so exciting. When I think of those times, I smile with so much fun. I'm so in debt to all the boys that I shared the car with, all my friends back then. A lot of whom have remained my friends.
Go on, give them a shout out. Who are they?
Peter Brazel, Martin Mallon, Gary Craven, God, let me think now. Stephen Mallon, I know I'm missing people. Mark Heatley, Paul Crimmins. I mean, the list is endless, really. James Napier,
A reunion in Dundalk is in order, I think, some Saturday night, Brendan.
We have lots of reunions because all those guys now, most of those guys are people I have reunions with regularly. And we all have a glinter and we'd all sort of laugh at those days,
I wear my jacket second hand, pinned on a badge, my favorite band, a chunk of jelly in my hair to keep it standing up high. It's Friday night, they're running late. I'm standing waiting at the gate. At least I get a window seat, not in the middle. 5 of us piled in a Citroen GS, 18 years old and identically dressed. First taste of freedom, cruising around, bracing ourselves for a night out of town. It's all night.
Yeah. What was the best slow set song in your day?
the best slow set song. Well, I hated the slow set because it just put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I never asked anybody for a dance in the slow set. Well, that's not true. I did. God, no, I did. Um, Let me think. There was the first one I remember that was big was When I Need You. Leo Sayer.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
I do.
Yeah, that was a biggie. And then there was Three Times. No, that was too young. I was too young for that. There was
10cc might have
oh yes,
got to play.
absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. That definitely one of them. Hello by Lionel Richie. I think that was one of them as well. I'm never a big fan of Beautiful Tonight, Eric Clapton. That was like
Come on. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
definitely, And I have to say now, I never really. It probably put me off slow songs generally. You wouldn't for them. I feel sorry for the youth of today that don't. I don't know. Does the slow set exist in today's world among teenagers?
I don't think so. It's gone.
I don't think so.
I think they'd crack up at our stupidity at this ritual.
Maybe. It's very hard to chat to a girl if there's like pumping rave music and you're trying to, Also, the slow set was a bit of a refuge for 99% of guys who couldn't do what a disco was designed for you to do. Practically no guy. One of the reasons I never danced was because guys can't dance. And if you are a good dancer in a disco, that's not really actually necessarily going to do what you think it's going to do.
Yeah, this is true.
Girls do not necessarily want to see someone who's a better dancer than them, and they're dancing with them. They sort of want you to be clunky and a bit like gormless, because then, let's just say they know where you're coming from.
Effectively, the slow set was your modern day Tinder. You're in the dance floor, you have the group around you. Most people are up for it in some form or fashion, unless you actually go to it with someone. And it is swiping left or swiping right, except a walk of shame is involved.
Well, that's the problem. The problem back then was, like, I was with 5 other guys. If you don't do Tinder with 4 other guys or 5 other guys looking over your shoulder. Yeah. Well, if you went and asked a girl for a slow dance and she said those immortal words at the end of the first slow dance, I have to go back to my friends. And you, as you say, make the walk of shame back to your buddies. Everybody's trying not to meet your eyes, because they're sort of mortified for you, which is another reason why I didn't do too many of them.
Well, I'm going to have you eaten your words before this recording is finished about a slow song, but we'll get there. The Tree of Life.
That was a song that was written during COVID, and there was quite a period before I was able to do like Waiting Game with Declan. There was actually a period where I wasn't seeing Declan, like months, 6-7 months, where nobody was seeing anybody. We had to sort of stay within a very small bubble, which really essentially was our family, and I mean the people in this house. So Sharon, who was in Nashville, Sharon Vaughan, who we'd written songs with, I had written songs with over the years, and helped on Sugar Island. She knew that we were making a record. We were still talking, obviously, about stuff, and she said, why don't we write once a week, every week, while this whole thing's going on? We can help write for this new record. And I said, fantastic. I said, that's going to be good for me because it'll force me to get better. Because I lent on Declan's guitar playing when we'd be writing with Sharon sometimes. So, because Sharon doesn't play any instruments. So I said that this will help me get better on the guitar because I'll be forced to be able to accompany myself. Because when I went to Nashville and stayed with Sharon and said to her, well, I take my guitar to the songwriting sessions, she looked at me and sort of aghast and said, "Brent, you're not a guitar player, you're a guitar owner."
That's very hurtful.
Oh, I know, exactly. She said, "The best guitar players on the planet all are in this town. So that's why I'm saying you're a guitar owner." So I thought, well, I'm going to prove her wrong. I'm going to get better at this over this period, So I started really saying, okay, so I would spend the week between writing sessions trying to come up with A, a chord progression on the guitar, and B, an idea. So when we would be writing, at least you could shoot down the idea and the chord progression. So I actually had to have 3 or 4 different chord progressions because she would go, "No, I don't really like it. I don't really see it." So you want to start off with, because she is so fast at writing that you sort of need to have your act together. And because I'm not that fancy in a guitar, my way to solve technical difficulties was to investigate different tunings. So I just went into all these funny tunings, looking up on YouTube, and one of them was open D tuning, and I hit a chord progression that sounded like a jazz chord. And interestingly, I noticed that when I just kept that shape and moved it up and down the neck, but it sounded really impressive. Surprisingly impressive for me, and not like anything that you'd hear in a rock record and like that. Very unusual for me.
I'm gonna carve my name on that tree of life. It may not mean a thing to the passerby, might feel a little sting. With the signature tip of my knife, I'm gonna carve my name on that tree of life. You can walk through this world and never leave a footprint, and you can keep your mouth shut, afraid to make a difference. Draw initials in the sand, but surely the tide will wash it away.
I was really excited at that. So I started singing along to it, and the melody I was coming up with was also jazzy. I just couldn't help it. And I was sort of quite excited because it just sounds different. And so the day we were writing, I said, okay, I've got a chord progression. I like it. And I've got a title, which came to me when I was singing this sort of waffle that I do when I'm looking for a melody. I think it was, I'm going to carve it was Tree of Life as the title. I'm going to carve my name on the Tree of Life. Or maybe I didn't even have carve my name on the Tree of Life. I think I did. And played her the melody. And then Sharon and I both worked on the structure and on the lyrics. And she's amazing at that. She's amazing. I needed to have all the other stuff in place with her, because with her, if you have a title in place and you have a chord progression, even if it's not totally accurate, you will end up with a song in an hour and a half later. The only question is, well, how good is it? But when she's on form, it's just as good as you're going to get, So really excited about that. And then played it to the guys, played it to Declan. And I think they were surprised at the chord sequence on it. But we didn't know if it worked on the record. I quite like the idea that it was like, Tree of Life, we're talking about life and the changing thing of life. So it works on the theme from that standpoint. But is it a bit too jazzy? And some people thought it was very different for us, from the four of us. It was very jazzy. But ultimately, I think now it's one of Declan and Anna's favourite songs on the record.
It feels like a dreamy summer song to me.
Yeah. Do you like the song? Do you think it's not four of us in its or?
Yeah, I wasn't hearing the big guitar thing going on. There was a very different feel. To be honest with you, I thought an awful lot of the album wasn't four of us. And I said that to you, at the very, very beginning when we started recording the first episode of these podcasts for Crescent Nights. That particular song, I thought, it's a dreamy summer song. I thought your vocal was a bit different in it. And I could see there was a big progression from the demo that you were sharing and the final version as well. I thought it changed quite significantly. Whether it fits or not, I get the scratching something on a tree, and we've all done that. And it is a permanent mark. But I think that was an analogy for something else, really, was it?
I think it was, for me, what it meant was, it was about being that age, being the age I was when Night Out of Town was written. And, there's a bit in Night Out of Town where like I'm going in with my own cassettes into the car. Like the arrogance of it, you're sort of like implying that the driver's got terrible taste in music. So you're bringing your own cassette of your choice of music in and sort of going, why, do you fancy playing that? Of course he's not going to play that. He's driving, he's going to play whatever he wants to play. But then I just, I remember thinking, I'm going to do something with my life where, it's that I was here. When I'm gone, people will go, oh, he did that, or he did this, or he did, I thought, I want to be one of those people that does something that is bigger than them, which was, it was music, really, because music, if you don't have an audience, you don't have anything, really.
Yeah.
It was my way of saying, I'm going to do, it may not mean much to too many people, and actually, that wasn't my line. That was Sharon's line. But that's my favourite line in the song. It may not mean that much to too many people, but I'm going to scratch my name on the trail. Like in a broader sense,
Yeah, however you scratch it.
Yeah. But we all do that. And then she did another brilliant line. It was her line again where she made it far more universal by saying, if you have an impact on another person's life, one other person's life, then you have done that. You've had it, which is, again, she's just masterful that way. She can really take a two-dimensional idea and really expand upon it.
Out of interest with Sharon, and you come up with the idea and she helps you complete the song. From the minute you lock it down with her to your final version, do you feel obliged then to share the progress of the song? And obviously you with the guys and Enda and everything else, the song goes in a particular way and there's a final version of it and everything.
Generally with Sharon, the thing is that the one thing that Sharon hates doing, he hates it, is rewriting a song she's written. Now, the four of us, we are the master rewriters. Me, Declan, and Enda will rewrite and rewrite. Sharon loses the will to live after about 2 rewrites. So I think it was actually on Tree of Life. Enda said, could we change that line? I said, no. I said, we're not going there. I said, look, this song doesn't have to make the record. I'm not going back to Sharon, because for her it's like digging up a dead body. That's the way it is with her. She would say she would far rather just write another song, and I'm not sure she's wrong. You know what I mean? She's going, the amount of energy you put into rewriting that, we could have written another song is even better. But that's just the way. When you're writing as many songs as she is, and not commercial Nashville Music Row, that is the way it is, and I get it. But also, she hasn't invested in, when me and Declan and Enda do it, we've invested in some cases months in a melody and a structure, where Sharon's normally done and dusted pretty fast and move on to the next. So it's a different sensibility. So when you go to Sharon, you have to have your shit together, because if you have a title that's not great and she helps you write that song, but that title niggles at you, it's not going to make the record. It's going to be annoying to her. So as much as possible, when I'm working with Sharon, I really have to think that I have something that's not going to change, or she's going to beat it. But if I have any problems, if I've put her down a wrong path, or she goes down a wrong path, I have to get to her pretty fast saying, I feel a wee bit uncomfortable about that. So the way we work, generally when I'm writing songs with Sharon, is like, I take it to the guys and it's either you like it or you don't. And if you've a problem with it, it doesn't need to go on the record, you know?
That's a great release clause, isn't it? It doesn't have to go there, so don't get too head up about it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Don't, and they're not involved in it.
Yeah.
They weren't involved in this, so they don't know what it would be like. Whereas I do, to go back to Sharon and say, this second verse, can we just, because a lot of the time I don't know what they mean. Because I wrote it with her, so I feel like Sharon about it. It's like, well, that's it, it's done, And by the way, if it's not on the record, then let's hear the song that's better than it, that we've written. So it's a good way to have it, having these bank of Sharon songs. I know that there's few of them are going to make it because, and quite a few of them don't make it. That's the flip side of it. Quite a few of them don't make it. For the same reason, that they're written fast and just they don't fit the theme and whatever, And there aren't weeks and months spent on them, It's like catching lightning in a bottle with Sharon. But if you're going to do it with anybody, she's the one that's going to pull it off.
Are you still writing with her?
Not at the minute. We're sort of like, I haven't time at the minute to really, it was like, as you said earlier, somebody needs to have the energy to be going, let's start the next record. And it's not me today or for the last 4 months. It's not been me. I've just too much to do trying to promote this record. There's just too much going on for me, for my head to really to focus on that. And the last thing I want to be doing is ringing Sharon in Nashville and not having the time to do the prep work that I just talked about. So you need to have time to set that up. So like Enda is providing that impetus at the minute, which is great. And the way around that is that we go up once a week and we write. But even there, I went up to Enda's today to write, and I had a song to write lyrics that there was a musical thing. And I went to him and I said, I got nothing, I haven't had time to do anything on this song because literally we're just flat out. But if you go and you spend a day with Enda, he won't view it as a wasted day. We'll always come up with something and different things. And it just reminds you that this is the most important part of the job. And also we're used to having lots of days that not a lot of stuff gets finished when you go up to Enda's. And that's not a bad thing because it's always worth it,
Musically, what are the most enjoyable moments? Is it being able to spend days like that with Enda? Is it playing in front of a crowd? Is it writing lyrics yourself? Or is it a mix of all of those things together?
It's a mix of all of those things. But in terms of the fulfilling part of it, there's a fulfillment that you get when you have made a good record. Records are forever, but they are forever. And it's a bit like, suppose you go to a restaurant and you have a nice meal. Suppose it's like a fantastic meal. It's an absolutely wonderful meal. 2 months later, it's gone. The feeling that of that meal, it's gone. Now, suppose you do some work to your house or something. You build something in your house, or you look at that every day. People come into that house and they say, wow, I love that thing. Oh, I built that. I built that part to the extension, or it's got a permanence to it. And that's probably not the right analogy, but all the work that it took to make it seem like it wasn't much work. That's really, even if I was to put on the record now and listen to it, and I'm going, well, I can feel all the work in a way, but in another way, it feels like it wasn't me. It's like listening to another record and going, well, that's good, and people will come up to you and tell you it's good, and they'll come up and tell you it's good 15 years from now. And so ultimately that is the most rewarding part of the job, or if I play Cork, play live as in Luke's or something like last week, and the whole crowd sing Mary, that's still rewarding because it's like, wow. I think it's about the effect that you can have on other people. It's the same reason why being generous and giving fills the soul. It's the same thing because you are giving. You're giving and people are receiving and they're saying, that meant a lot or I enjoyed. So that, for me, that is the biggest part. And all my heroes wrote songs that changed my life really in terms of like give me joy that I just need to hear Kiss by Prince and I go, it still makes me go, that get took that, or if I watch The Godfather, and I just go like, how did he do that? How could he? That was shot in 1970. It's now 2025. And I look at that movie and you could scroll through Netflix for 24 hours and you're not going to see anything that approaches the genius of what Francis Ford Coppola and everybody involved in that movie pulled off. I mean, this is personal speaking, but it's about my response to something that he created for people like me, And my whole thing was, imagine being able to do that. Not obviously Francis Ford Coppola, The Godfather, but in a small way, to do something that has an effect on other people. That, for me, is the biggest thing. That is a bigger thing because gigs and all that, they're wonderful experiences, but they're a bit like that dinner.
Yeah.
They're fantastic in the moment, but they're there and they're gone.
Well, that's that tree of life you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna carve my name on that tree of life. It may not mean a thing to the passerby, might feel a little sting. With the signature tip of my knife, I'm gonna carve my name on that tree of life. You can walk through this world and never leave a footprint. And you can keep your mouth shut, afraid to make a difference. Draw initials in the sand, but surely the tide will wash them away.
So we're going to finish on the slow set.
Okay.
So hold on to me. Come on, Brendan.
What? Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. For anybody that's listening, Hold On To Me is a song that didn't make the record.
Declan, at this point in time now, is shouting at the podcast when he's listening to it.
No, I think Declan's quite enjoying it. Declan's enjoying the fact that these songs, because remember, we worked just as hard on these songs as we did on the songs that made the record. I mean, you put the same amount of work in and then you look at it all. And it's like picking a team, you know what I mean? You invest in all the players. Ultimately, some of them are benched. It's just the way it goes, And now Hold On To Me was an older song that was written when one time we said, Blue is one of my favourite songs of the four of us have done. And it's a piano song, very simple piano song. I love the way Enda plays the piano. He's just got a great authority. He's got a great feel as a piano player. And I said, can we write something where, you just use those sort of, just really simple on the piano, and I'll sort of croon something. And he had the combination of chords that was Hold On To Me. And, when Enda plays, it just sort of fills me with this sort of, usually it's the same thing. It's the same feeling, which is just sort of, I don't know, it's a mixture of, I find his playing really evokes emotions from me. So I tend to write lyrics that aren't narrative when he's doing that. They're more sort of just express how I'm feeling. So that song is about being afraid you're going to lose somebody, or also someone who is not very stable and who you are in love with, and you're sort of going like, it's basically Lean on Me, essentially, except instead of Lean on Me, it's Hold On to Me. But of course, then that works against it. You go, well, Lean on Me is a better song, and it's the same sort of idea. The title's even not that much different. So you write it, you don't judge it when you're writing it, then you finish it, then you listen to it, then you listen to it 2 weeks later, and you go, well, is that really that great? I love it, and maybe it's the piano parts is good, but maybe the lyric isn't special enough. And all these decisions are very personal. You know, somebody else might go, well, I disagree with you there, but I'm the guy that has to sing it, so I get to decide. And they're my lyrics. So if I'm going to be hard on something, but that's just not good enough. Sorry. You know?
Yeah, well, as a Four of Us fan, as a fan of music, I thought that song was raw and interesting and beautiful.
Wow.
I took a note when I was listening to it. I was wondering who was playing the piano, and I guessed it was Ender from what you had said to me already about him. And I was thinking, listening to it, and I really mean this, I was thinking, Brendan needs to do something with a piano player. And maybe it's Ender. Maybe it's just perfect that these songs pop up here and there. They don't have to be all rammed together, but a whole sequence of them. But for me, his playing brings something different out in you and your vocal. And if you're going to spend a little bit more time polishing something, I thought it was such a wonderful song. And I was imagining a Four of Us gig where it's one of those special nights. All of your gigs are special, but one of these nights where there's a little bit of extra magic in the air. And you've done the encore and everything else, and people are shouting and roaring for more. And you want to give them something extra, but at the same time, you need to bring the night down as well, because the venue is flashing the lights and they're getting freaked out with you. For me, it would be a beautiful song to come out and finish out with. It's just gorgeous.
Isn't that interesting? You know, there you go. I mean, that is not interesting. Yeah, but I do think you're right. It's funny you were saying that, and then I was saying a bit earlier that when Enda plays piano, it's like an emotional response that I can't really do anything but just respond to, you know, and I find myself respond to it. And maybe in a funny way, that's where the power is in a song. And maybe it didn't fit the record because there's not that much of that on this record. You know, which is, you know, maybe where the next record should go. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, that's now me starting to think about the next record. Maybe the next record should, because what I was thinking is this record is actually quite sophisticated and produced, inverted commas. So maybe the next record should be a bit scraggy and a bit raw, which is like what that song is. That song essentially is pretty rough. I mean, well, it's rough, but because his playing's so good, it's nearly like Tom Waits in that it's you know, it's like a piano mic'd up by a mic that's on the other side of the room rather than you properly mic'd up like a Billy Joel record, you know? Yeah. Which gives it, as you say, a sort of character that in a funny way makes it a bit more visceral.
Yeah, let me hear the pure voice and the pure piano playing.
That's it. Well, I can't wait to tell this now because people really like that song, you know. So it's too late to change it now. but you know, there's nothing to say that we couldn't. Yeah, maybe I was too hard on the lyrics as well.
It's there forever, and what you decide to do with it is totally up to you and the guys. But to sign off on this part 3 of the making of Crescent Nights, maybe let the listeners decide. Yeah, for anyone who's listening, if they'd like to give you a bit of feedback on this particular song, because I think it's absolutely beautiful.
Please leave them. We can leave comments after the podcast. We're not even asking for reviews at this point. We just want comments.
Yeah, you want reviews on the album that's released, not on the stuff that made the record. Brendan, we'll see you for the final chapter of Crescent Nights.
Thanks so much, Greg. Really enjoyed this episode.
Good man yourself. Thank you.
The road has been long, right from the very start. Haven't we known we're better together than alone? I understand it. We all need to feel free. Don't break this connection. Stay close to me. You are flying so high now, you can't even see. You need somebody to hold on to. Hold on to me. We have the battle scars. They can be healed. Lay down your armor and I'll be your shield. Right from the very start. Haven't we known we're better together than alone? Oh, I understand it. We all need to feel free. Don't break this connection. Stay close to me. You are flying so high now, you can't even see. You need somebody to hold on to. Hold on to me.
Thank you for listening to the Please Do Something podcast. If you'd like to get in touch, just send an email to brianmurphy@me.com.